Hey guys, Tarke here, and I'm here with Tarke Nova Kiddens and a build that I'm actually incredibly proud of. The thing which is so good about this Poison Ice Nova support Triker shenanigans is it works as both a support and a crazy offensive damage dealer. So the way this build guide is going to work is we're going to very briefly just show off the mechanics. I will do a tiny bit of dried legs to show off the mechanics. I'll then do a full build breakdown, and then we'll run a map at the end, okay? So we're going to do the mechanics, then a map. I've had a few people in the videos recently complaining about showing off build strength in Act 4. Anyone who does that isn't showing off build strength, they're just showing you how the build works, which is what we're going to do shortly. So this is a cold to fire to chaos conversion Occultist, making our Ice Nova a poisoned Chaos Nova. Because we have to dual wield, dual consuming darks and all that stuff I'll get into later, we can use Wilding Blades. We press Wilding Blades, we press Ice Nova. Now, this is pretty good. And actually I need a lightning game, it's only got added to the game just now. But the reason why I'm showing you this is there's one particularly cool thing you can do with this build, which is the whole point of this run. And if that doesn't make you want to roll this build, nothing will. So let's just get up our charges. Right, we can now go Varl Ice Nova. Varl Ice Nova is the coolest thing in the game. So let's just get a big group of mobs. This is a bit lackluster, but it will do. Craigasm. Right. Let's show you how this whole character comes together, the gearing, how it all works, this, that, and the other. Now, there are a few unique items which are required for this build. So this does come with some cost. The budget version on Perandus Hardcore right now would cost you roughly about 60 chaos. The reason being is the Consuming Dark Dagger. Now, these can go from anywhere from 25 to 50C depending on the rolls. If you take your time with PoE trade, you do a little bit of haggling, you can get them for about, let's say, 30 each. So you're looking at about 60 for the main two, and you'll also need a Pyre Sapphire ring, which costs about 1C. Tops. So that's really all you need to get the build working. So first, how does this all work, Tarke? Well, as I said previously, we're using Ice Nova, which is a cold skill. The Pyre ring converts 100% of our cold damage to fire damage. And we dual wield Consuming Darks, which give us 50% of your fire damage converted to chaos damage, and your chaos damage poisons enemies. So not only do we get cold to fire to chaos conversion, but we also get poison for free. I know it's not really free, but we effectively get to run an additional link. Now, because of the cold to fire to chaos scaling, it means that we can be very greedy with some of the nodes we pick up on the tree. So for example here, we get 8% Ellie, which scales both the cold and the fire. We get this, which gives us 18% cold damage into fire damage into chaos damage, and some resists, and for another 1 point we get another 18% damage nodes with some resists. So you get to be very efficient with the way you sort of go through the tree. So we're going to do a rough tree breakdown now. So we start off as a witch, we're an occultist. I should probably cover that first. The reason why we're an occultist is mostly for Void Beacon, which conveniently my head is blocking. When I came up with this character, I wanted something which would be an amazing solo character, would do good damage in a group, and would also act as a pseudo support. A lot of the support builds you're seeing right now are sort of Guardian stuff. Well, what's the most meta build at the moment? The most meta build is anything Voltaxic Chaos Conversion-y. This is the best Chaos penetration you can get in the game, as far as I'm aware. It's very hard to get Chaos penetration. So just from being an Occultist and from all the AoE we stack, this nearby enemies is the entire screen. And I can show you later on how you know if you're debuffing enemies or not. So the fact that we bring Tricurse to the mix and have Chaos Pen means we're incredibly valuable for most groups. Most of the Guardian supports these days are going pure aura stacking, ignoring curses, meaning you can come in, do the whole Tricurse thing, and that support guy can drop some points on his tree, and everyone wins. Also, for all these little nodes, we get chaos damage, and we get some max energy shield, which is also pretty nice. So, again, energy shield, curse duration, profane balloon. Cursed enemies you kill have a 20% chance to explode, dealing a quarter of their maximum life as chaos damage. So, 20% chance to get a 25% chaos detonation. Also, enemies you curse take 10% increased damage. As far as I'm aware, this does not stack, this is just a 10% increased damage. Now, Profane Bloom, it isn't amazing, but it's actually quite a nice DPS boost, and you'll see that when you have rares and are surrounded by mobs, there's a pretty good chance you get 1 or 2 detonations, and, you know, it has an okay-ish AoE, and it looks pretty, so it's good. Come through again, max CS curse duration, Malediction? Yeah. Enemies can have 1 additional curse. This by itself is great. It saves you skill points before you go Tri-Curse, and when you go Tri-Curse, it saves you a ring slot. When you kill an enemy, each curse on that enemy, gain 4% of non-chaos damage as extra chaos damage for 4 seconds. Basically, you get a nice little damage buff, and you get an additional curse. Feels good, man. Now, we come up through the spell damage. You can go spell damage or cast speed. I chose to go for the spell damage, but if you felt like the ice save were a little bit slow, you could go through the cast speed. Get Occultist Dominion, very nice. As I said, grab this. Come through, grab this. This is pretty nice for the avoid stuns or casting, and to get some stats. We do not scale the crit. Deep Wisdom, AoE. AoE is the main thing, and while leveling, you basically just do this. Grab this, because I leveled with cold damage, and you follow the path. I'm going through the tree in the path that you use while leveling. Get the AoE, come up, get these 2 life points, rush to Ellie Overload. We proc Ellie Overload just through our Ice Rever itself, but we also use Curse on Hit Orb of Storms, so we have the buff up about 90 to 100% of the time. Come through here. This fire, again, gets converted to Chaos, and it gives us AoE, but you worry about that later. Just nice life nodes. Access to Zealot's Oath if you want it. Come down, get Light of Divinity. Get spell damage, Ellie damage, Elementalist, fill in the AoE, grab Retribution. Now while leveling, it'd be around this point that you start going, okay, I've got loads of damage, let's start filling in health. So you come down, grab Discipline and Training, grab the regen. I like this talent early. You could cut this if you want to, but I like having a little bit of regen. Fill in Heart and Soul, and then you start, you know, just filling in life nodes here and there. Come grab a Jewel. One other thing which I particularly like about this build is we can get Azara's Turmoil, Crimson Jewels, with 25% increased fire damage, 25% increased cold damage as a perfect roll. Pretty hard to get hold of perfect rolled ones, but you can basically get a 50% increased damage jewel for anywhere between 1 to 10 chaos, depending on how good you are at haggling. I have 3 of these jewels. This one costs me 4 chaos, this one costs me 3 chaos, and this one costs me 5 chaos. On Perandus Hardcore, the cheapest was about 1C for a bad roll. The most expensive I saw was about 20C for an okayish roll. It's just being persistent, whispering the right people, going through every single person who's online, and you can pick up some really nice jewels for not very much money at all. Eventually, you would want to replace these with jewels with life, but these are very nice, just beginner jewels while you build up wealth. Things which are good is cold damage, fire damage, chaos damage, cold damage, fire damage, increased damage, area damage, and obviously maximum life. You could go for cast speed while dual wielding because we use Consuming Darks. You could go for some attributes if you needed to, but you really don't with this build. You could also go for some resistances, but this build is the easiest build I've ever had to cap resistances of. Come through, grab some life. Come down this way, get the full life and mana cluster. Getting the full cluster is quite important because mana is somewhat needed for this build because we have quite high costs. Come through here, get the full hybrid wheel, get Azara's Turmoil, come up this way. Now this is an amazing wheel because it scales both the fire and the cold, it double dips, it's beautiful, right? So this is a 16% node, a 10% node, and a 50% node with some crit chance, and the crit chance just helps proc any overload, so it's just beautiful for 4 points. Also, in some versions of the tree you get Eldritch Battery, and it ends up being you just travel through this way instead of coming this way, so very nice, very nice. Come through here, Life ES, grow up Cold-Hearted Calculation. Now you have 2 ways of pathing through. You can shadow, you can go through the Ellie damage, or you can go through the damage over time. I'm not focusing that much on the poison. I'm basically just scaling as much initial damage as possible, which will then scale my poison, but I'm not really focusing on the dots, so I'm not scaling damage over time, I'm not using rapid decay. You can go for a more poisony focus, I'm mostly just going for an upfront focus. So that's why I went through the elemental damage here. We also get a chance to avoid elemental stasis elements, which is pretty decent. Increased duration, we don't apply any, so that doesn't really do anything for us. Get some elemental damage, tiny bit of crit chance, again quite helpful for blocking elemental overload, some dex and some int, some more life, a bunch of cast speed and attack speed, and some dex in it. And again, because we use Whirling Blades, having both attack and cast speed is beautiful. So we actually get amazing effectiveness out of these double nodes. Come through this way, get nullification, we get some all res, we get some ES, we get some life, very, very nice. We get a 20 chaos damage node, movement speed and dex, and more life. I do pick up the frenzy charge in the tree, which I'll show you later, but this is where I am right now as of level 80. Now, I'm going to do like a brief gear breakdown, items worth using while leveling, etc. And then we'll look at the finished Heretic's Veil version of the tree, and then we'll jump into a nice, easy map. So, Consuming Darks are locked in place, the Pyring is locked in place, every other slot can be whatever the hell you want. I am running a 5-linked Carcass Jack. Because of the Carcass Jack, I have beautiful, beautiful AoE. I can have even more AoE, but I haven't got the right enchants yet. But basically, you can use rares in every other slot except for this one, but even that is questionable. So capping your resistances is very, very easy. Now, the reason why I'm using the Blood Dance Boots is because of Frenzy Charges. Again, I will like the double dipping of the attack speed and the cast speed per Frenzy Charge. I like having easy Frenzy Charge generation. Now, my dual curse setup is Orb of Storms, Temp Chains, Enfeeble with Curse on Hit. When I go Tri-Curse, I'll be running either Warlords Mark or Poacher's Mark as my third curse, sorry. If I run Poacher's Mark, that will give me Frenzy Charge generation and additional Flask Charge generation, meaning I could drop the Blood Dance Boots. But if I want to go for Warlords Mark, get the Leech and the Mana Leech, having to worry about using the Life Leech gem, then I can go that way. So if you don't like using the Blood Dance Boots, that's fine. Run Poacher's Mark. If you don't mind using these boots, use Warlords Mark. Now, you can buy these fairly cheap and spam corrupt them and hopefully get one with an additional Frenzy Charge, and if you do that, good luck to you. But be aware that if you are Valing your boots, helm or gloves, you will miss out on your enchant. You can't have an enchant and a Val corruption. So, basically just stacking life, a little bit of ES and some resists. Not an amazing belt, I can still craft something on it, I'm just sort of keeping it open. Again, the same with my gloves, I'm just sort of keeping stats open because I'm doing a big gear swap around the next couple of levels, so I'm not mastercrafting everything yet. Basically, you just want to focus on life, mana, resists. Having additional flat mana, mana regen, stuff like that is actually really helpful. Now, this is a pretty nice ring, I'm not going to lie. I stole this off my Incinerate character. And this is basically the best item when it comes to rares on here. Everything else is fairly lackluster. Like, it's high life, but the resists aren't that great. The armor isn't that amazing. It has got some strength on it, so that's pretty good. This amulet is stacked strength, which is quite nice. It has some life. It has a little bit of rarity. Has a lot of lightning res. Okay-ish energy shield. And my helm is basically a gold rim with some max life on there. Nothing that crazy. I'm set at 4.6k life with 869 energy shield. You can run Discipline with my current setup and still have enough mana to cast all your stuff, but unfortunately I gave my Discipline to someone I was mapping with yesterday so he could run it. With a level 17 Discipline, you're sat on about 1.5k energy shield and 4.6k life. Obviously, once you get a few more levels, you get slightly better gear. We could get more life here, we could get a bit more life there, we could get... Okay, if we were to replace the boots, we could get a bit more flat life there. We could also run life on our jewels, natural levels. You're going to be floating probably about 5k to 6k with very nice gear life. You have 100% increased energy shield in the tree. Depending on if you're running with the support, you could float anywhere between 1 to 4k energy shield. I was mapping yesterday with a Guardian support and was sat on 3.8k energy shield the entire time. So that's with okay-ish gear. I'm going to cover the Flask, then we'll go into the Heretic's Veil version of the tree. Now, one thing I particularly like about this build is I have an open Flask spot. Because I haven't got my mana regen sorted just yet, as you can see, my mana does drop, but with the pace this build sets, with the clarity I have leveled, by the time that I've killed everything and I've whirled around, it only takes a couple of Novas to kill everything, right? But I am using this just for a tiny bit of mana, because it gives you a tiny bit of life and mana. It gives you the quant and rarity, which is actually kind of nice. And the full all max elemental resist is surprisingly defensive. You can very, very easily run an Itziri's Promise, of course, which makes a lot of sense. It gives you Chaos Leech, it gives you Elemental Damages extra Chaos, which is very nice, and it gives you an Amethyst Flask, which is obviously pretty nice. Interestingly enough, you can also use an Aquamarine Flask. I've never really used these before, but they're kind of cool. Basically, when you activate it, it creates chilled ground. It's interesting. It also gives you a chance to avoid cold damage when hit, so if you're doing certain bosses, you could play around with using this. It has quite a few uses. If you roll them correctly, you can get 3 uses, maybe even 4 if you're lucky. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Good for a budget version. Forbidden Taste, we're not going to use this because I haven't got super high Chaos Res. We've only got 47%. This is actually surprisingly decent. Because of the amount of rares we use, you can easily have positive, even capped Chaos Res with this build. If you have capped Chaos Res, this is basically a Super Seething, which is also a Quartz Flask, which gives you dodge and spell dodge. And you take a tiny little dot for the duration of the flask itself. Interesting. Actually very good and costs about all of 1 alch. Potential. Lion's Roar Granite is a granite flask you can use if you decided not to use an increased armor extra charge as granite. It's kind of good, kind of bad for the build. One thing I really like about it, it does give you knockback during flask effect. As you can see from our range, we basically push everything away from us. It's very nice defensively, but I prefer having a super granite. I don't like running double granite, so I don't really run it, but again, it's something you can use. Silver Flask gives you Onslaught. Onslaught gives you 20% increased attack speed, cast speed, and movement speed during flask effect. One thing which is particularly nice about it is you can pop it. You now well faster, you cast faster, you well faster. So if you want a DPS flask on a budget, you can grab this. You can also run Sulfur Flasks, but I don't like them too much. And obviously the Stibnite, which is my favourite go-to defensive flask if you're not using an Itziri's Promise. Stibnites are amazing, amazing, amazing. You spam it, everything is blinded, you get this crazy long buff, you get loads of evasion during it, spam it, spam it. You can get loads of uses out of them. I love Stibnites, I absolutely love Stibnites. Super Granite plus Basalt is mandatory. Make sure you roll your Basalt so you can get 2 uses out of it, very important. And then just run, you know, I like running double health potions. You can run just 1, but I like having a bubbling and a seething. It's just my playstyle. Now, yeah, we're going to go over the Heretic's Veil version of the tree, and we're also going to briefly talk about doing the Tri-Curse without a Heretic's Veil. Now, obviously, Heretic's Veil, which I should probably show you what that is this helm. Maximum energy shield, nice evasion and shield, plus 2 level Socketed Curse Gems. Socketed Curse Gems are by level 12 Blasphemy. Socketed Curse Gems have 12% reduced mana reservation. Pretty good. The thing which is really nice about this is it gives you Blasphemy itself, so you can do Blasphemy from the helm, Curse, 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 and run Enhance. Quality on your curses is very important, especially Temp Chains. Quality on Temp Chains gives you enemies are slower. This is amazing. We also use a Wither Totem. Wither slows enemies, it buffs stacks, it's just beautiful, 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 beautiful. Now, obviously if you're running Tri-Curse, you need to pick up Whispers of Doom, or if you didn't want to spend the skill points, you could run a Dodri's Ring, but picking up this really isn't that bad, and I like having an additional ring slot for life and stuff. Just change your routing ever so slightly, come up this way. You also gain access to these fire damage nodes, which is kind of nice for like level 90 plus chasing damage. If you do want to run the build without Heretics and go Tri-Curse, you can do it. So what you do is you grab EB, and you will need to grab this mana reservation stuff. You only actually need 2 points, but you may as well grab the full wheel if you're going to be there. Now, obviously running a Heretic's Veil is better. Obviously. Because with a Heretic's Veil, you can run 3 Blasphemies, and you'll be left with 93% reserved. You'll have just enough mana to cast your main skill. You won't be able to run Arctic Armor, you won't be able to run Clarity, but if you run in a group, that's fine. If you would like to run Clarity on top of that, then okay, you might need to look at, you know, getting some reservation stuff on the tree. But it's not too needed, especially if you decide to run with a mana potion. Running mana potions really aren't that bad, guys. Trappers do it all the time. Now, If you decide that you want to be super edgelord and use Eldritch Battery and use a Heretic's Veil, you can run 3 Blasphemies and an Arctic Armor with the 6% reduced mana, which is pretty nice, and I really like Arctic Armor, so, you know, take that into account. But, you know, as I said, if you can't afford Heretic's Veil, they are fairly pricey. You can just change your routing slightly, pick up EB, reserve all of your mana, and use your Energy Shield to cast. You will lose some survivability, because obviously you're going to lose some Energy Shield, but the option is there. You can do the build as Mom and don't do the whole Tricursey thing, but frankly I just think that is inferior. So let's cover links, and then we're going to jump into a map. Now, Fortify, Welling Blades, faster attacks, pretty nice. You can actually drop the faster attacks and run an increased quality Culling Strike, quality on Culling Strike does give you attack speed and obviously gives you Cull. You won't move as quickly. You could also maybe shuffle it into a 4-link somewhere, but it will give you the access to Cull, and if you do shuffle it into a 4-link somewhere, then you'll have even faster Welling Blades. Highly recommend that, but you'll have to drop something elsewhere. Already covered, Orb of Storms, Temp Chains, Enfeeble, Curse on Hit. We'll get to the main chest later. I'm running Val Ice Nova with Spell Echo, Quality Cult to Fire. This would actually be better as something like Controlled Destruction, but I couldn't get the colours I wanted, and Void Manipulation. Basically, this makes Val Ice Nova do crazy damage. You can use it as a boss killer. The rule with Val Ice Nova is, the way it works is you do a normal Ice Nova. Every mob it hits casts another Ice Nova. It all overlaps, it all stacks. This is basically the I delete Perandus packs from the game button. It's really nice. We're using Spell Totem with Wither with faster casting. You throw it down, it spams Wither. Wither slows everything, it makes them take increased chaos damage. It's really beautiful. Very nice versus bosses, it stacks with the Temp Chains. It also creates another target, and people really undervalue how good it is to have additional targets out there. It acts like a mini decoy totem. It's just really good. Don't drop it. Val Grace, I just like it as a nice button to press on scary bosses. Cast from damage taken, Immortal Cool, that's just that. And I'm running a Clarity here. You can see I'm fairly starved with the links because I'm running so many things that I want to run. You can play around with Val Discipline if you want to. You can run Val Haste if you want to. I've mostly gone for defensive setups. This floating gem here is an Arctic Armor. My main setup is Ice Nova. Make sure you get quality on your Ice Nova. It gives you an additional 10% increased area of effect. Very important. Void Manipulation. Crazy scaling. Crazy scaling. Controlled Destruction. Crazy scaling. Spell Echo. Elemental Focus. For a 6-link, you would run either faster casting or a quality Cult to Fire, depending on what you want. Cult to Fire is very nice, but it isn't better damage than all these crazy more multipliers. With Elemental Overload, we run 4 more multipliers. Ice Nova itself is only a 70% damage effectiveness, so it really isn't that great. So doing stuff like added Chaos, added Lightning, added Cold, don't really bother with it. Just scale all the more multipliers. So let's quickly jump into a Dark Forest, which dropped for me earlier. We're just going to roll it nice and easy because it's already a bit of a long map. But yeah, this character is level 80. I started mapping on it around about level 73. I've done tier 9s. I think I've done tier 10s. I can't quite remember. All of this was on the back of a 20-hour stream, so it's a bit of a blur. Let's just quality up for the lols. Why not? And we'll throw an alp on it. That'll do. That'll do. So, I do stream every day, and I'm currently playing this character, so if you want to see this in action or ask me questions live, check out my stream. Links will be in the description. Links to my profile, all of that stuff will be in the description. Bandits. For Bandits, you want Oak for the life, cast speed from Malira, or skill point. I chose cast speed. And then in Mark, go for Frenzy Charge or Endurance Charge. Don't go for the skill point. I went for the Frenzy Charge. Endurance Charge if you plan on running Warlords Mark later on. So you see I drop all the storms, everything's cursed. Everything falls over. Very pretty. Let's start setting a bit of a pace. Now, I am still a bit sloppy with the character because for leveling I was running Curse on Hit gloves. I believe they're called Azimuth's Mark or Azimuth's Touch. Very nice gloves. Basically, what they do is they give you Curse enemies on hit with Temp Chains. Absolutely beautiful gloves for leveling. highly recommend you pick them up. I'll get loot at the end, who cares? But as you can see, you absolutely face roll everything, and this is a support character. Keep that in mind. This is a Tri-Curse, Chaos Penetration support. If you play this in a full group, this is really beautiful. I'm just spamming my divinations every now and again to get a tiny bit of mana regen. Press Ice Nova, everything blows up. Super, super pretty. I've had a few people worry that this build won't scale too well into the super high maps not being crits. We have access to all the crit modes if need be, you can pick up crit. Personally, I do not think this is needed at all. I think solo you'll be fine in the higher tiers as long as you have good gear, and in a group you'd definitely be fine. Also, for anyone wondering, this character is incredibly good for stuff like Itzubi, thanks to the fact that we run Blasphemy and Super Temp Chains. Basically, Blasphemy Temp Chains is OP as hell for Itziri. We give Chaos Pen. Out of all the Chaos builds, this is a pretty good one to do it. I'd probably recommend dropping Ice Nova for something like Glacial Cascade for slightly better single target damage in case of Itziri, but you could probably get away with running Ice Nova on it and be absolutely fine. Uber, definitely run a Heretic Spell. You could probably do normal Itziri without, but, you know, I'm not an Itziri farmer, I don't know. But yes, you could do Itziri with this build. Alright, let's see if we can get a really juicy Val Ice Nova off. That will do. It's very satisfying to play. You could maybe play around with using slightly different Ascendancies, but personally I think Occultist is the best for the penetration and the easy additional curse. I think Occultist is very undervalued. The Chaos Pen is pretty overpowered in my opinion. And by pretty, I mean really overpowered. The fact that it's so difficult to get Chaos Pen by Perandus pack, and we get it in such easy access, is beautiful. Okay, now you see this like aura, this like purple aura under the mobs. That is actually the range of my Chaos Pen. You can see it's basically the entire screen, right? So, as I said, you just be on the same screen as something, and stuff gets deep end. It's beautiful. Right, we have our stuff. Let's just clear out this Perandus pack. Now let's go play with the mods. It is double boss. Did a nice chunk of damage. Drop down the Wither Totem. To show you the build in action. See how it just slows them? See how slow they're moving? Really nice. Yeah, that's basically the build. I absolutely love it. It's the most fun I've had this league, and I've played a lot of wacky builds. It's certainly more interesting than Valspark. Is it as powerful as Valspark? Probably doesn't do as much damage, no. But, as I said, as a support character, as a DPS character, this is definitely the most fun you're going to have on a Tri-Cast support. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling. We'll full clear the map off stream, because that will make the video too long. Ooh. Let's actually click on the portal. So, sell up stuff aside, you know, I come up with builds like this all the time. Hit the follow button if you enjoyed this. Check out the stream to ask me questions. Profiles, builds, everything will be in the description. Again, for the Bandits, Oak, Illyra, Frenzy, or Endurance Charge. I'm Tarke Cat. This build is awesome. Have a good day. Bye-bye.